I strongly urge you at this moment here at the beginning of the semester to create your study plan. Block out time on your calendar that is time to do chemistry. This can be all sorts of different things. It can be interacting with the recorded videos. It can be completing formative assessments. And I would love to see you plan somewhere on your calendar that about once a week you review everything that we've done already. You'll be amazed if you do that review once a week at how much better prepared for the exams you are, especially the final exam. If you're doing a little bit of review every week, the final exam will be a cakewalk. I strongly urge you, after you get your study plan and you've blocked out this time to be dedicated to chemistry on your calendar, that you ask questions early and often. It is really easy for me to help you when you ask me some small question. Like, Dr. Patterson, I really don't get where these symbols for the elements are coming from. Can you go through this with me again? That's a small, easy thing to fix. If you come to me the day before a test and you say, Dr. Patterson, I have no idea how to do stoichiometry, there's not a whole lot I can help you with at that point. It's too big of a topic and too short of a time to get you up to speed, right? So the earlier you ask me questions, the more often you ask me these little things, the better off you are going to be. There's no question that's too small for me to work on with you. And another thing I want you to keep in mind is you're thinking about, okay, when and how am I going to study? If you discover you're not getting the results that you want, you may need to revisit this plan. It may mean that you've been studying at 10 o'clock at night, but you're so tired by the point that you're getting to this class, you need to really move your block of study to earlier in the day when you're fresher. Or maybe 10 o'clock is your peak time and you've been studying at 6 in the morning, and so maybe you need to move this to 10 p.m., right? The main thing you need to think about is just, if you're not getting the results you want, do something different. If you find that you need resources beyond what I'm presenting in our lectures, probably my number one suggestion for places to go to next is the textbook. I don't really advocate that everybody initially run out and buy the textbook, because I have had too many students over the semesters tell me that they bought the textbook and then they never used it. So instead of putting you in that position, I strongly recommend that you try things for a little bit. And if you think you're not getting enough out of my lecture material, then buy the textbook and you can always go to it for additional reinforcement. Slack offers tutoring services. They're a great place to go for help. If you find that you just want more practice problems, Google Mr. Gooch. I love his worksheets. He posts the worksheets and the answer keys. His worksheets are very narrow. So like, if instead of being a worksheet on all types of nomenclature combined, it'll be a worksheet on binary molecular nomenclature. So you can focus on just one particular skill. I do caution you to stay away from things like Khan Academy. The problem with the Khan Academy is that the videos get way too detailed, way too fast. Let me strongly urge you to talk with me and interact with me. I promise I don't bite. I have a daughter who is currently in 8th grade, and she's done this whole year online for her classes. And from watching her, it's made me appreciate how difficult it can be for a student to interact with a professor or a teacher in this online format. So please, please, please don't be intimidated. Don't be worried about interacting with me. There are numerous opportunities that you have to interact with me. During our synchronous class meetings, you have the chat if you don't want to actually say something out loud. And if I don't respond to you in chat, send it again. There are times in our synchronous meetings where I'll get like 10 or 20 things put in the chat all at once. And I do my best to scroll through them and reply to all of them. But if I don't reply to yours, just try it again, and I will do my best to address whatever your question is. If I address it, but I didn't answer your question very well, let me know. Just put another thing there into chat. You are welcome in our synchronous class meetings to unmute and pose your question out loud. That's all good. We also have office hours. As much as I would love for you to turn on your camera, whether it's in our synchronous class meeting or in our office hours, I know from watching my daughter take classes online, there are times you just can't do that. I get it. There may be times that you're trying to fix breakfast or eat breakfast or lunch while we're in class. There are all sorts of things that might be going on and you're just not comfortable turning your camera on. I get that. So if you don't want to turn your camera on, that's okay, but still interact with me with office hours, with the synchronous class meetings, even if you never turn your camera on, even if you never unmute your microphone, there's still the chat, there's still ways that you can interact with me. You also have email, right? So you can send me email messages, but here's something that I am begging of all of my students. Identify your course and your section. Different courses, different sections have different due dates. For instance, in Chem 1310 versus Chem 1342, our first exams are 1 week off from each other. So if I'm interacting with you, a student in 1310, but for whatever reason, my head is stuck in Chem 1342, and I say, oh, well, you got another week before the exam, that can really mess you up, right? So it's so very important when you're sending me email that I know what course you're in and also what section you're in. If you can't remember 251 or 252, that's okay. Just tell me you're on the Monday, Wednesday class or you're in the Tuesday, Thursday class, right? Just do something to identify what course and what section you're in. In email, please be professional. I have received an email from a student that started off, hey, Mary, I'm not making that up. Turns out that student wasn't even in my class. I think the student thought that he was interacting with a TA from a communications class. In the end, that's what I finally kind of figured out. But if you're interacting with a professor, that's not a good way to get started. Try something like, hi, Dr. Patterson, or good afternoon, Dr. P. Just keep the tone professional. If you're really frustrated with something, don't say, this class is awful and I hate the way you're teaching. You may be feeling that, and I totally validate those feelings. I understand anytime you're learning something, frustration is part of the process. But instead say, I'm really struggling with the concept of moles versus molecules. Can you help me distinguish these two things? Right? That is a great way. If you've discovered something that's wrong, instead of saying, hey, Dr. Patterson, you totally messed up this video, say, Dr. Patterson, in this video, you wrote the number 22.4, but out loud you said 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. So which one is it, right? Just be professional, and I will do my best to be professional in all of my interactions with you as well. Some of the things that will really help me, particularly if you're asking about problem solving in email, send a photo of what you're doing. Just use your phone or whatever is your easiest way to snap a photo. Take a photo of where you've been working this out on paper and attach that to your email. It's amazing sometimes how just in 10 seconds of glancing at your work, I can say, oh, well, here's the problem. You put the mass in kilograms and it needs to be in grams. And just if I can just see your work, I can usually just hone right in on what the challenge is. I'd also ask you to be as specific as possible in your emails. If you say, I am so lost in chapter 5, there's not much that I can do. But if you can say, Dr. Patterson, I'm really struggling with balancing chemical equations. I'm not getting the difference between subscripts and coefficients. When do I use a subscript? When do I use a coefficient? I can really help you by email if you're that specific. But then, if it's something that I really don't think I can respond to effectively in email, I'm going to ask you to come to office hours or schedule a different appointment with me if office hours don't work for your schedule. Um, there are some things that in like 5 minutes of back and forth communication between you and me, we can knock out easy. But if we were to try to do it via email, we might be sending 20 emails back and forth and we still may not be any closer to resolving it. So don't feel that I'm putting you off if I ask you to come to office hours. It's just whatever you're asking me, I can't really effectively help you with in email. And so let's meet so that we can take care of it. So to wrap up our objectives for this video segment, we're trying to figure out how the course works, to identify the primary and secondary sources of instruction for this class, to distinguish formative assessment from summative assessment, and to create a study plan for your success for this course.